Good Tuesday morning to you here on May 21st, a conference finals game one Tuesday morning. I'm Marsh, joined this morning by B-Ron. Good morning, B-Ron. How you feeling?
Hey Marsh, I'm feeling good, man. We got more basketball action in the air today, and the playoffs are heating up, and really excited to get through it, man. Tongue tied
We
this
got
morning.
there. We got
Yeah,
there.
we
The
did.
important part is we got there. Game one is indeed tonight over in the Eastern Conference. The Indiana Pacers, just 2 days removed from their whomping of the New York Knicks, are just traveling along. What is that, 91? I don't know. 91 goes north. They're traveling on along the state of Massachusetts to get to Boston to face off against the Boston Celtics. A big pivotal matchup. The Indiana Pacers finally back here for the first time since the Paul George, Roy Hibbert era in the franchise's
Wow.
history to take on a Boston team that's trying to get over the hump yet again.
Yeah, but wow. You put that in perspective for me, man. That's a long time to try to get back, but they're here. And look, I think that this series is gonna be a lot closer than people are gonna give the Pacers credit for. I just have a feeling. I mean, yeah, the Knicks were banged up when they knocked them out and everything, but I don't think that changes the fact that I think um this Pacers team is going to give them a good challenge. I think.
Well, I said it yesterday on the old delayed Marsh pod, and game one and two I think is going to be really important here. No Kristaps Porzingis, which means that there's a really big opportunity here for the Pacers with Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam to steal a game or two in Boston. We've seen the struggles at Boston loses game two to both Miami and Cleveland. I think that's more ironic than it is a trend of who they actually are, because obviously they go on to just demolish both Miami and Cleveland the next three games. But this is still, I think, a really big opportunity for the Pacers because I think they match up actually kind of well. Yes, Tatum and Brown are more athletic than the wings that the Pacers have. And yes, they do have, the Celtics have forwards and guards that they can slap onto Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
But I actually think the pace at which the Indiana Pacers play, very up tempo, very moving up and down the floor, is beneficial for them to try to get out of some of those less than favorable matchups. And again, attacking the glass. If they can win the glass right now, then they've got a really big opportunity to potentially pull an upset, and that's going to come down to Siakam and Miles Turner.
Yeah, and you mentioned Halliburton. I want to go back to that for a second because you mentioned the guards that they have to and wings they have to kind of put on Halliburton. And last time they played in a playoff like environment, which was the in season tournament, didn't matter a whole lot because Halliburton had 26 points, 5 3 pointers, 13 assists as well in that game. Now, obviously, yes, things have changed from then till now, but I don't think you can ignore the fact that last time it didn't matter what they did. Halliburton still got his. So I feel like even with all that being said, I think you're right that the biggest thing is going to be how Siakam and some of the other players in that paint area kind of play for the Pacers in this series.
And look, this is why you go out and get Siakam, right? I mean, he
Hmm.
might not necessarily be having a an eye drop or an eye widening postseason in terms of the numbers that he puts up, but he's capable of having big nights. He's still an all star. He's still a fringe all NBA guy. This is why you do it, because if this Pacers team has Bruce Brown instead of Pascal Siakam, guess where they're not? They are not in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're not frisky enough to try to win one. That's who this team has become because of the introduction of Pascal Siakam. Let's head to the Western Conference, which gets rolling on Wednesday night, where it should be a very entertaining one. Dallas going on the road to Minnesota. The Wolves, of course, fresh off a historic comeback on Sunday night to oust the defending champion Denver Nuggets on the road. This is a huge series for both sides. I always like to think about legacy relations. You got Dallas, who's got Luka Doncic on his way to his second conference finals and a chance to finally get to the SWBA finals. You've got a Minnesota team that's got Anthony Edwards ascending. To me, this is the more entertaining one just because of the skill level that we're going to be witnessing every single game.
Yeah, between Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, and Kyrie Irving, just those three alone, it's definitely going to make for some entertaining basketball throughout this Western Conference Final Series for sure.
And look, I think the star turn, the respect now that I think Rudy Gobert has warranted, and for good reason. I mean, this is a guy, Gobert, who for the last couple seasons was played off the court in the postseason. I mean, you look at the big reason why I think Utah tore it apart was because with Mike Conley, with Donovan Mitchell, and with Rudy Gobert, this team wasn't good enough. They just were not good enough. People would target Gobert relentlessly in the pick and roll and put wings and guards on him. They would have, go back to the Houston Rockets era with Russell Westbrook. They'd put Russell Westbrook on Gobert because they just weren't afraid of him on both ends. And Westbrook, as this supersized small center, was more efficient than putting a big man. And I think that's the contradictory thought of Gobert was you needed to pair him with this, forward that could do this and a guard that could do that. And turns out what you needed to do was pair him with another center, which has allowed him to be so much more versatile on defense. He can float. He almost plays a Draymond Green type of free safety type of role. This has been entertaining to see this kind of turn from Gobert, who's obviously been one of the best defenders of his era, but really has not garnered that type of respect.
Yeah, and it also just goes to show that the improvement never stops, no matter what level you're at, too. Because you talk about Gobert, and he was essentially being picked on, like you said, but he worked on it and found ways to improve and not be picked on so much. To where now, like you said, he's been one of the better defensive bigs in the league. So the work never stops.
No, and this is a good matchup for him too, right? Going up against
Yep.
Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. I think that this, if you're looking at this, I really like the Wolves in this one. I predicted that yesterday, unless my mind is losing me, against the Mavericks, because what I like about that is the fact that if you're Dallas, you've got to play PJ Washington, you've got to play Daniel Gafford together, and then you're bringing Derek Lively off the bench. I really like that matchup. This is great for the SWBA. That big men value has returned because I love the matchup that the Wolves can provide with three big men. We look at just the challenges they gave Nikola Jokic. Do we really think Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are going to be much better? But I think this series swings on, is PJ Washington 3J Washington again, or does he regress back to being a 30-ish% three-point shooter? Because I would expect the Wolves to throw Gobert on him to begin so he can kind of float around and deter the Doncic, the Kyrie drives. If Washington is deadly from 3B run, I think that changes the series. If he goes cold from 3, which is certainly possible, and they can allow Gafford to shade off, this is going to be a much better opportunity for Minnesota.
Yeah, I also do think that it does still come back to the stars of the series, Luca, Kyrie, and Anthony Edwards. Um, just because when you look at the Mavericks roster again, just kind of looking at the two stars they have, I feel like if both of them combine and have good games throughout the series, and it's just Anthony Edwards going for 40 points, like he did multiple times in the Nuggets series and throughout the playoffs in general, I don't think that they'll have enough firepower to keep up with. But if both Luka and Kyrie go crazy throughout the series, which I
Mm-hmm.
mean, one or two games I could see it happening, not all throughout. But even if you get, I don't know, 30 from Luka and 25, I'm throwing out numbers at this point, from Kyrie, I still think that'll be enough to let other people do some work too, and then they can finish up from there. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
Wolves will certainly need another big night from Carl Anthony Towns. Speaking of big nights, let's head over to SimWorld Prep, where we return with a pair of games at 7 and 8 p.m. this afternoon. The North and the Originators kick things off at 7, H-Town Hoopers, Queen City Kings at 8 p.m. The North has been kind of frisky, big run as of late. They've been pulling a handful of upsets here or there as they try to cement themselves with some confidence heading into the race to one. Do you think here on Tuesday, May 21st, the North can pull an upset against the Originators?
So I know we're getting close to the run to one time, and people want to talk about giving bold predictions, that kind of stuff. But I'm not gonna give one here for this one anyway.
Ooh.
I do like how the North has played lately. They've played a lot of teams close, especially Lakeshore Drive. That was kind of the big one for me, where they only lost like two to that team. But I don't think they'll have enough tonight to get it done. I think that the OGs are coming into their own. They have been for the past month or so, let's say. Um, and I don't see it happening tonight, Marsh.
Well, look, it's a big night for the North. Well, excuse me, for the Originators. Sure, it can be a big night for the North if they want it to be.
Yeah.
It's not a big night for the North. But anyway, to the Originators, they have a half-game lead right now on Philadelphia Elite and a game-and-a-half lead on Beast of the East. Both of those two teams are dormant tonight. Both of those two teams have two games left. The Originators have three. This matters because the Originators with a win can not only give themselves a one-game edge with two to go over Philadelphia Elite with these of these kind of hovering behind, but you also can then guarantee yourself a matchup with the North or Gotham 5. And you can, if you like this matchup of Gotham 5 for the Originators, you can even push them down half a game above Gotham 5 for the 8 seed. And I think I've talked and said 8 seeds and team names so many times on so many different mediums over the last couple of weeks. But it's so important. And this
Yeah.
is maybe our biggest for the day that we're actually going to see on TV. It's just a huge matchup because the Originators, not only can they cement themselves there, but they can also give themselves the number one overall seed, which doesn't totally matter, just because of the fact that this is all uh, on a neutral court. But it's still, for the Founders region, to set yourself up to guarantee to play the 7 or 8 seed is a heck of a lot better than the risk of playing Bad Boys Basketball or Run DMV in the opening round. Or if you were to fall to 3, that would be the case.
Yeah, exactly. And you're playing within your region versus it being a mishmash of teams. It wouldn't be like they're playing Middle East in the first round. So it's a different matchup, like you said. But I do think that I think that's also why I don't see the North pulling upset two tonight, is because you still have something to play for, if that makes sense. I can
Hmm.
see if they didn't have anything to play for and they were resting starters and that kind of stuff. But because they still have that number one seed in the Founders region to play for, I think that they're gonna give their best tonight against the North, and they're at home too.
Hmm. H-Town and Queen City, the second game of that doubleheader. Looking at the standing, H-Town currently sits in fifth, tied virtually with AT Aliens, but just a 2-game lead on Lone Star and a 2-game lead on Queen City. So equally important here in our second night of the doubleheader for H-Town to get in that 4-5 matchup and avoid having to play one of Gulf Coast, Southeast Select, or Yacht Club in the opening round. Those are the top 3 teams in the Southern region. So big game for H-Town Hoopers. A win, and you guarantee yourself sitting in that 4-5 matchup. A loss, Queen City Kings could jump you. Lone Star Basketball, who granted only has 1 game left, but if they were to win out that last one and H-Town were to lose out, there's the possibility that we end up with a tie there and some chaos at the 5-6. All right, that is the show for today. It is May 21st. We're going to be coming back tomorrow morning. We're going to be recapping conference finals, some SimWorld prep action. It's going to be a chock full day of activity. So, B-Ron, appreciate you joining us. I appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow morning here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
reputation.